This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Okay, I believe we have got Katie Field from Halo Labs. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Todd.
How are things?
Oh, things are good. They're busy. So.
Excellent. Yeah, of course, Katie, a big part of the Halo Labs and HaloCanada.com team, and we've gotten to know all of you. And full disclosure here, I do a lot of work with you guys behind the scenes too, and I just absolutely love the team, the management team, love the direction of the company, and so much going on. And I love informing and educating, and that's the most important thing, because I feel like we don't have a ton of that in the cannabis space. You guys based out of the U.S., and you have a big grow up there in Oregon. What's going on there?
We actually completed our a record-breaking harvest in record time. We just completed that this past week, and it is really it's been a really great achievement. Everything went perfectly, and we're now looking on the estimate right now, sort of just dialing everything in and how much dry weight that's going to yield us. But it's just, on the order of, 14,000, 15,000 pounds or more. And that will really put us in a good spot, biomass and production-wise, for the foreseeable future. So we're very pleased.
Okay, slow down a second here. 14 or 15,000 pounds?
Yes. and actually, I'm erring on the conservative side of what, I think that's in line with something that we'd published already, but it could be more. And that's actually something that the team's working on as we speak.
What would the staff be to be able to grow that amount? I mean, I would imagine that's pretty labor intensive.
It is labor intensive, but when it's an outdoor growing model like we have in Oregon, the most intensive part is when it's time for harvest. So what we do is we have sort of a flexible staffing model where we have folks that are working the farm for the better part of a year, not quite that long, but for a certain amount of time, and then as we get closer to harvest, we staff, and then bring on additional folks as the plants are taken down to trim, to dry, trim, and compile everything. So yes, we absolutely do. We staff. The team is quite large when harvest time comes, but only for that specific amount of time.
Katie Field from Halo Labs. Am I doing my math right? Is that would that be around 320,000 ounces?
Well, yeah. So there are.
Oh, I did it times 20. I did 20,000. I did it at 20,000. So 16. So if you got up to 20,000, which potentially it could be, let's say, that would be 320,000 ounces. I'm just trying to make this theater of the mind here for people. And then grams. If you're to take that into grams, Katie, that would be
454 grams. 454 grams in a pound, I believe.
Yeah. So we're now at 9,072,000 essentially grams. That.
Right.
I'm sorry, when you put it that way, it blows my mind.
That long multiplication, I lost that ability, when I graduated from 6th grade. But
I'm using a calculator on my phone.
Yeah, I use Excel. But no, it's amazing. The other kind of cool part is that for the first time ever, we're actually selling pre-rolls in Oregon, as well as we've had some amazing flower sales, just because the quality of plants has been so great this year and the yield's been so high that instead of just, putting it straight to extraction, which of course that's our core business, that's most of what we do, but we're now able to offer flower-based products too, at least for, the next couple of months while it's in stock. And that'll be exciting because we'll be seeing some uptick in the revenue and the margin as a result of that.
Man, that's unreal to me. It really, when you think about the growth, what they can do, and that's just one part in one of your operations in Oregon, right?
Yeah, that is the 6-acre farm that we have in Oregon, and then of course we have our processing facility that has been very, very busy. Been blasting all of the material for our live resin and our distillate products. We've been busily adapting to the new regulations in Oregon regarding the type of additives that can be used in cartridges. For example, only cannabis-derived terpenes. So we've been developing processes to harvest those from our own internal kind of extraction and manufacturing processes. And terpenes are what gives cannabis its flavor. So, just like when you smoke cannabis, you want it to taste good. Well, when you vape it, you want it to taste good as well. And so the terpenes that we're able to harvest directly from cannabis, the cannabis we process, and we infuse that back in the distillate to make cartridges that are fully compliant with OLCC regulations.
Very interesting to hear all the updates from Halo Labs. And the whole industry really does amaze me from seed to sale and everything in between. And that's what we get to learn from you, everything in between. Because do you find that even the average consumer and perhaps even the average investor still don't really understand how it all is really harvested and then put together and then sold? Like there's really a lot of working parts, isn't there?
Yes, there is. There are a lot of working parts. It's interesting because I think with a lot of quote unquote new industries, there's like it's not even that new of an industry, but tech, for example, or sort of Bitcoin or something that's a little more intangible. There's this idea that you can just kind of start it up, and all of a sudden you have a product, you have something to sell. I mean, yes, there's programming, there's all of this that goes into it. There's a tremendous amount of startup costs, but when it comes to our industry, we're not like that. We're just a farming industry. We're a farming and a manufacturing and a direct to retail in certain cases industry. So it's a lot more. It's very, very capital intensive, and by that I mean actual property, plants and equipment, investments, large investments have to be made that then with a live good, it needs to be grown. The cycles from, investment to recouping that investment are a lot longer, than some of these other quote unquote newer industries. So it's funny because yes, we are a new industry, but at the same time, we're kind of just dealing with the realities of being a farming agriculture / manufacturing type industry as well.
There's so many plans that Halo have been involved into, and one of them I know they've mentioned in the past that they're sort of close to working and signing a deal with in Africa and Lesotho, and that there's an opportunity there. Do we know where you're at with that, Katie?
Oh, well, that is actively moving forward. We're drafting the purchase agreement. All of the transaction documents, all of those are in the process of being, we're beyond drafting really at this point. It's kind of going back and forth and dotting I's, crossing T's. Working on the financing for that project. That will be. It's nice because it's being the fellow being a, how do I put this? It's in a federally legal market, so different kinds of financing are available as a result. So actually financing, potentially some traditional financing, bank financing will be available from, international banks. So that's something that, it just makes that business a little more, it's just a little different, but exciting. And, but it's progressing. Absolutely. I just had an interview with a gentleman who seems like he's going to be a great addition to the team, but he'll be driving forward the build out. We've already done some build out, but the sort of continued build out. And he has a really wonderful resume of experience doing commercial agriculture products in the South Africa, not South Africa alone, but the Southern African region of that continent, and it's just humming along. So definitely that's still a focus, and hopefully we'll have a very substantive update soon about the official closure of that transaction.
Well, and part of the reason why I ask is because, I'm doing the math here and what you growed in Oregon, and as impressive as it is, and it's beyond impressive in my opinion, and it was a great harvest season for sure for you guys. But I know that the space one day down the road, if that were to ever, finalize and close, which seems to be so close and so exciting here, is that, my goodness, aren't there something like, hundreds of hectares here?
Oh, yes. No, absolutely. So it's interesting because it's sort of a staged approach whereby, once we have the official approval, then we get the 1 hectare under greenhouse. I think then this next step is an additional up to 200 acres outdoors can be unlocked. Now, that's a lot of capacity, and I don't think we'd be, yet farming all of that, but just sheer potential in a very, very cost-effective environment to grow and process would be a tremendous boon. So I think it's all about, getting it successful from the get-go, doing a very cost-effective investment to do the additional hectare under greenhouse, get those offtake agreements up and running, and then think about the next phase of just build out. So yes, it's something that, it is really boggles the mind to think about the sort of the full potential of it.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what does an offtake agreement mean?
An offtake agreement basically means that it's a supply agreement whereby you identify a buyer and you lock in that agreement prior to harvest. Or prior to even it can even be prior to even building out fully, as just sort of validation from whoever subsidizing it, built out and fully produced. We have automatic sales, automatic revenue coming in. It's that kind of way of ensuring the revenue in the future.
Well, Katie, I love the lessons from business to cannabis to growth to even math here, and we always appreciate your time with the updates. Halo Labs and halocanada.com, and go and check out, read about. I always tell people, and yes, it's a bias. I work with you guys, full disclosure here and stuff, but read about this management team and
like working with you too, Ted.
Yeah, no,
appreciate these conversations, but also your insights and just your advice on on what we're doing too. So we appreciate working with you too.
Well, what I'm really excited about is I'm a big fan of Kieran, the CEO, and I love when CEOs are very active with whether it's clients or investors or whatever it may be, people who invest in you on one way or another. And that's kind of my media background, right? Where I've always had to sort of be accountable to listeners and followers. And it's a big job in itself just doing that. And Kieran's been so wonderful in jumping here on Twitter, answering questions to people and not necessarily making it a full-time job like an influencer might, but he wants to make sure that he gets in touch and is very relatable. And that's, it's these little things that's why I love working with your team, because we're sort of combining the worlds here to get out a great message. And I think it's so important that we do so.
I agree with you. No, I like that about Kieran too. He's very approachable. He is. And he likes to get down into the details if need be. And he likes to speak with investors, customers, directly. He likes to make himself available. I think it's important. It's important that we not get out of touch, we not fly. Yes, it's important to think about strategy and long term and, at times fly at 30,000 feet. But I think as leaders of the company, we also have to be accessible and understand that's of our employees or whether it's of our customers or our investors. So I agree with you, though. Kieran does a great job with that.
Well, it's amazing. And his love just of the space sort of as an advocate beyond being a CEO of it and also then being a CEO of other companies. He's just got the perfect combination. Of course, the perfect team around him and Katie Field, you being a big part of that. Thank you so much for your... No, it's true.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you so much for your time. Okay.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.